Welcome to Warmaster podcast. Today we're going to be talking about one of my big, well, probably my big project actually for 2024. Um, Having talked to Paul a little bit this year in a podcast, I realised that I've only ever painted a few bits and bobs in 10mm. Um, some Napoleonics, the odd unit of orcs. I definitely haven't painted an army, nowhere near. Nowhere near. Not even like a quarter of an army. So anyway, I've decided I'm going to try and paint an army. So obviously that's going to involve trying to get the maximum result from the minimum effort, because I am a lazy bastard when it comes to painting. I recently got a new job, and at my first paycheck I got an airbrush, so I'll be using an airbrush as far as possible. And I also won and scrounged some metal miniatures from the old Cromarty Forge. These are Norse Vikings, but not the ones he's just releasing. They were the first ever range he did, like back in, I don't know, 2019 or whatever it was. And they covered both sets of undead and also Norse, if you wanted to be even more kind of liberal with your proxying. So what did we do? Well, the first thing we did was undercut with everything white with the airbrush, and then there was an old Lord of the Rings tutorial on how to do the Army of the Dead, and basically what it was they sprayed a thinned down version of this Beltan green shade, thinned down with this lamin. I can't pronounce these stupid fucking GW names. Lamian medium. I don't know why we've got to just make words up. It's some technical medium for thinning down paint. So sprayed with the shade, and then we just dry brushed with this Ulthuan grey. So that's what we did. So a couple of sprays of the shade, give it some time to dry between. I think the second one was slightly darker, like a slightly thicker one, because you have to kind of, with an airbrush, you can't leave the paint in there, so you have to kind of dump it out at the end of every session, then let it dry, then go back, mix another batch which is slightly stronger, and then a bit of dry brushing. And then for the basing we used some sand, so just normal kind of rough builder's sand stuff. And we've taken out the really big stuff, and then we painted everything with Vallejo earth. We a bit of terminus stone dry brushing, and then the flock. I've got one of those. I can't remember the name of the wargaming terrain company, but I've got one of those static glass applicators. So some 2mm spring, and then some magnets from the magnet shop, which I'm going to use to base them all. So these little 40 by 20s. I mean, they say they're 40 by 20s. They're actually not. Some of them are a little bit bigger, some are a bit smaller. So I could have probably cut them myself, in all honesty. And then, because I'll talk a little bit about the game mechanics now. So we've got, being an undead army, there's going to be quite a lot to paint. So I built my list. There are a lot of units to paint because they're undead, and that's why I've gone for the absolute easiest paint job humanly possible. Is it 3 colours? No, it's not. It's like one colour. One colour and a dry brush. But I mean, there's some darker shades of green. I'm sure you could argue there's more than one shade of green in there. And there's still, I mean, the basing takes longer, even with this very, very limited basing. So all it is some sand PVA'd on, and then some watered down Vallejo Terra kind of washed into the sand, and then dry brushed, and then some PVA put on, and the static grass put on. That process takes way longer than the priming and painting of the miniatures. It's just the way Warmaster basing is. It's not a quick process. So then I thought, well, they're all going to look the same on the table, so I'm going to need to do some stuff to identify them. So I bought some cheap Avery stickers, and on each of the bottom there's going to be like green for one unit in a brigade, and then there'll be blue, and then yellow, and then orange, and the reds I'll say for raised units, so I know they don't belong to the army at all. because the brigades can only be 4 unless you're Skaven. So having 4 different colours for the units, like the Grave Guard, because I've got 8 Grave Guards, so there'll be 2 lots of 4. So there'll be 2. I might even put a number on them. So instead of, it says here 1, so that'd be green 1. I did think about number, like, you know, like you had to, for ranking stuff up, you used to have to put like 1A, 1B, 1C. I was trialing that, which is why they've got letters on them. I'm not going to do that in the end, and I'll explain why that is in a minute. So they'll have numbers on them, so they will be identifiable if they get lost on the table somehow. Now, one problem I came across, and I wasn't expecting this, but I'd like to tell you warts and all. So even though John did send me some of these, I need to discuss this because it is a real thing. It's a real issue, so it needs to be discussed. So if you see there, they don't line up, because if you imagine the area of this 40 by 20, well, the volume of the miniatures goes outside that area. So that's what I was trialing here. So 1 left. So because I'd bent this guy's, whatever he had, axe in. So this would fit, what's that, 1? That's 1 right, and 1 center. So they will actually fit like this. But then when they went to column, it still didn't work very well, because there's still stuff protruding out here. So if you had 4 units in column, there would still be stuff sticking out outside the pro. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to actually just snip these fucking things off and just cut them off and just have like little sticks. It won't matter. You can't really see them at 10 mil. And the actual gameplay mechanics are more important than the aesthetics of losing like this hammerhead here, which I've already bent, because they need to be able to rank up. The way the game plays and the way movement works and stuff, and brigades and stuff, they have to stay within that 40 by 20 profile. It just has to be, unless it's a single stand of a monster or something. So I'm gonna cut these off, and then I'm gonna just touch up the paintwork. And going forward, when I line them up to get painted, so what I do is I glue the front stands on. So the 3 front stands are glued on the bases, and the 3 back stands are glued on like lolly sticks, and they're prepared separately. And then when everything's painted, I put it all together. So I'm going to have to make sure that it may only just be these miniatures, because I haven't built or painted any of the other miniatures yet. So, but if it does go outside that 40 by 20, they are going to have to get trimmed off. This one here, you see that goes outside. That might be a little bit more awkward. I might have to just cut it off at his hand, because we can't have that, because it's not going to... Well, it does line up all right there. So, I mean, it may be that it doesn't cause a problem. I don't know. But, yeah, it doesn't, see... doesn't line up there. Anyway, so that's what's going to have to happen. Hey ho, it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world, and certainly you would never notice it once they're all painted and ready for display. So I will do. I've just started a new exam invigilator's job. I'm a lead invigilator, so that's kind of full time now until the end of June. So I might not get much done on this between now and the end of June, but before the event that Paul's running in early October. I think he's called it the Essex GT or something. It's only a 16-man event. Before that event, I will have this army ready, and it will be my first ever painted army. Anyway, hopefully I'll get to record a few more videos in the weeks that are coming up, although I'm a little bit busy, but I got half day today, surprisingly, so I just thought I'd record a video. And yeah, have a nice summer, everyone, and I'll speak to you when I can.